Hello, I'm Steph from iDriver Classic, and I had hopes that when I was going to show you my standard 10, the sun was going to come out, we were all going to be joyful and the weather was going to be glorious. However, as we know, it always rains on iDriver Classic, and it has rained today. In fact, we have got flood warnings out, so they must have known that I was going to test my own car. Anyway, I'm showing you today Speedy, the standard 10, and I am so excited to show you this car because we have worked so hard to make this car happen. We have all toiled, we have put hours in, we even pulled an all-nighter to get it to the NEC. But what is she actually like to drive? Because I know so many of you have been asking. So in today's video, I'm going to show you around her as she is now. Of course, she is a work in progress, there are things still to be done. And I'm going to show you all the various bits and pieces. And I hope you love her just as much as I do, because this little car, I didn't know what to expect when it turned up, and I absolutely cherish it so much. It's such great fun, and today it feels very personal sharing it with you. So without delay, let me introduce you to Speedy, the standard 10. Now, I know that when we first got the car, we had a good look round, but I feel like, well, let's revisit it, because there'll be some of you watching that have maybe tuned in halfway through the repair videos, have maybe not even seen the repair videos yet, and you're wondering, what on earth is going on with this standard 10? This is a very brief look around, but look, I do need to put my hands up. I was going to go and get the car valeted today. I was already raring to go. Got to the valeters, and of course they were closed because of this weather. So unfortunately, you are seeing her in what I like to refer to as her working state. So how she is every single day when I'm out and about. And goodness me, we have covered some miles. In fact, we've been doing really well. I think we've done somewhere in the region of around 700-800 miles so far in this car, which is really good going for a car that, well, many of these probably won't do 1,000 miles a year. Although my confidence was buoyed massively by the fact that there are a couple of local people, including a lovely man named Gary, who use them every day, and they said to me, you don't need to be worried about doing that, you're going to be absolutely fine. Now, another addition that you've probably noticed to the car if you watch the early videos is the roof rack. Now, the roof rack has a little story behind it, as does that nodding dog. So first of all, the nodding dog, that was a gift from a subscriber named Dan. We recently drove his car, and he gave it to me when we went down to review his car, and he said, oh, this is a gift for you. And I said, which car do you want it to go into? And I'd only just purchased Speedy, and I said, I can put it in Speedy if you like. And he said, yes, please. So that's why Stan, the nodding dog, which obviously is short for standard, is now in there. Apologies to these carpets. As I say, it is very much a working vehicle. Now back to the roof rack. I used to have a beautiful 1960 Morris Minor who I loved in the same way that I love this standard. She was a little bit shabby around the edges, but in the end, terminal rot meant that, well, I just didn't have the talent to keep her. So she's been rehomed with another custodian who is going to get her put back on the road. But I kept the roof rack. I have promised that when the new owner buys me a roof rack in return, I'll swap it back. But until then, it is sitting on my standard, and it has proved to be quite useful. So other than that, what is going on? Well, a lot of you have asked what we have spent on getting this car back on the road. And to be truthful, our feet haven't touched the ground since the NEC. So I just haven't had a chance to sit down and tot it all up. But I know the parts came to around £1,000, which was massively buoyed up by the exhaust at around £250. Might have been more than that actually. And the springs, which were around £420, £450, something like that. Again, apologies for all the stuff in the boot, but look, this is a working vehicle that I use all the time, and therefore it's just full of various bits and pieces. As I say, I did mean to take it all out, so can only apologise. Right, I don't know who you are or where you are out there, but please know that I think about you. Person who left the comment saying, you know when Steph's doing a car review because it's going to be raining, because I think about you every time that I go out and do a car review and it rains, and today is no exception. I was looking at doing it yesterday, but I was coming back from the RAC Awards and I'd only had 2 hours sleep, and I thought, I'm just going to come off miserable, and I love this car and I want everyone to realise how much fun they are. So I thought, no, I'll do it on Saturday, and then I woke up to 3 or 4 inches of snow, and now it's torrential rain, so it must be a review day. Now coming in front of us, let's walk through what we've got, because my car is probably slightly different to some of the other standard 10s you've seen. I mean, you've got the interior, that is different. I don't know what's going on with this. This isn't a colour that was originally paired with the Salvador blue, which is the body colour, but look, I don't know what's happened. I'm 10th owner. I've got no paperwork, and you can go one of two ways on these things. You can either become fixated by all the things that are wrong, or you can just say it was an £850 car and I'm having the time of my life in it, which is what I've decided to do, because I just think, well, find me a 70-year-old car without a problem. And if you do, they're probably in a museum. They're not out being driven in the rain, snow, and having all the adventures that I'm having. So what have we got in here? Well, first of all, you've got this long, I guess, what are we going to call it? Just like a bit of a tray shelf, really, that has no frontage to it. Now, if you're wondering why it has no frontage, remember, when they were making these, they were coming up against stuff like the Austin A35, the Morris Minor, and they needed to undercut them on price. By doing stuff like this, they undercut them on price, and I think it's quite a decent margin. It was about 80 quid, which made people really think about these standards, and around 175,000 of them were made during the production, so they did fairly well. I mean, obviously, really no match for these things like Morris Minors and stuff, which have lasted like nothing else. But the point of the matter is it was a budget car. That's why you don't get things like that. Something you do get in this particular one, don't know if you got it from new, are these door pockets. Now, I love these. Now, I will confess that when I bought the car, it had a bit of a funky smell in it, and I didn't know what it was. And I honestly thought I was going to pull back something and find a dead mouse. It was like that level of smell. And so in this door pocket over here, I have got, and if you've never used these before, I do recommend them, the Lenore Unstoppables, and they're so strong that the smell permeates through the packaging. So I'm just basically waiting for the smell to dissipate slightly, but the car already smells so much better. But look, probably being way too honest. Now, coming down into this control panel, which is pretty much all the controls we've got, this is very different to probably how it was when it was new. And I know this because Tony from the 8 and 10 spares shop said to me, oh, that should be there and that should be there. And I just thought, right, well, it drives and it's great and it's passed an MOT, so we're all good. So first of all, this is my pull start. Now, the pull start shouldn't look like this. This is a choke cable that somebody's borrowed from somewhere, but look, 70 years has passed, it is what it is. Over on this one, 2 clicks, side and headlights there. Just push it straight back in. I'm a bit of a sod for forgetting to push this back in when I get out the car at the moment, so I just need to keep my eye on it. You've got your heater. It's only got 1 speed, so it's just, oh, I've already got it on. Tells you everything, doesn't it? You've got the heater on the pull there, and then up here, these are the controls for it. So I don't know what's going on. Mine doesn't seem to follow any sort of convention, so I've just got it rigged up at the best setting possible for me to get some warm air into the car, so it doesn't really match. It goes from off down to cold, so you've got like warm, hot and cold, and then on this side it's off, demist and defrost. But look, it's just set up the way it works. Over on this side, you've got this little blue light. Now, this wouldn't be original. This is for your main beam. So that comes on when the main beam comes on. And then over here, you've got your wipers, single speed, of course, and you have got your choke. And that is everything, apart from your speedo, which sits in front of you. And on your speedo, you've got your mileometer and you've got your fuel gauge, and you've got a warning light for the ignition and one for the oil. But here's the thing, okay, and I'm not going to be able to show you this during the day, is when you put the lights on at night, the lights under this that light the speedo have such a bleed on them that they keep lighting up the ignition light and the main beam light. And I got seriously stressed out on my first nighttime drive because I thought, oh, the ignition light's coming on, what am I going to do? And I got really worried. I turned the heater off. I thought, oh, let's keep going. So I thought, I've only got 10 miles to get home. And then when I got home, I kind of realised what the gig was. So anyway, it's one of those things. Over on this side, over here, you have got another cubby hole. Now, this car is blessed with so much storage space. And every time somebody got in here at the NEC, they said to me, I can't believe how much space is inside that car. And I said, I know, they've used the space so well. Now, coming down from there, you've got your push washers. Now, you probably noticed under the bonnet that the washer bottle, I think, is off a Mark 1 Mini. And some of this might be down to the fact that these weren't fitted with washers when they were new. However, they introduced the MOT test in 1960. And I think it was one of those things that they had to put in, or it was recommended. So it's obviously a system that someone's just jockeyed in. But again, because it's just on this little panel down here and it's been bolted in really discreetly, it doesn't really matter and it's fine. So it doesn't look out of place. I saw a car the other day where somebody had put a panel, like a panel of wood, and just screwed it into the metal and then just drilled some gauges into it. And I thought, that looks awful. Why have you done that? At least this kind of doesn't look too out of place. You've got the world's smallest rear view mirror, no door mirrors, no wing mirrors. So we're just out there living the experience, turning my head every which way, wishing I was an owl with a 360 head turn, but you know, it's one of those things. Coming down from there, you've also got, these keep falling down, I don't know why, just one of those things I need to get sorted out. You've got your sun visors. This one has a mirror in. Now, it's a bit of a top mark because the Morris Minor certainly doesn't. However, this one drops down when I'm driving, especially if I go over a speed bump. And then on this side, this is just plain black. And that, my friends at home, is absolutely everything. Now, I'm going to take you out for a drive. You know what I will do actually? I'll let you have a listen to the horn. The horn's quite fun. I like that. It's a decent horn. I've had to bib it a few times and people have actually responded and listened, which is quite the revelation. Because I tell you what, they don't look or listen when you're on the motorway trying to change lane. Anyway, I'll get it started up. You can have a listen. She's been a little bit funny starting today, and I think it's because the weather is just so dreadful. So we'll see if we can get her going. Oh, that's nice. Oh, maybe not. Let's try again. You've got to give her a bit of welly, otherwise she gets a bit... Oh. Anyway, you've heard her start. Let me warm her up and then we'll go out for a drive. Right, let's go on an adventure. I'll tell you what, I'm putting that dynamo through its paces. I mean, I've got the wipers on, I've got the lights on, I've got the heater on. Blimey, is there anything I haven't got on? Poor thing. I mean, if the dynamo light's not on now, I'm sure it'll be absolutely fine. Now with this gear change, you can probably see that it is a wee bit notchy, but I'll tell you what, the first time I did it, oh my goodness, it was absolutely dreadful. I cut my knuckles across here. So if you are doing this yourself in one of these and you're in an early one, because apparently they changed the gearboxes later on because people complained that they weren't very nice to change gear on. I can't imagine why. So if you are in this situation like I am, when you change gear, instead of going like that, if you go up like that, you don't seem to catch it. I hope that tip is helpful to somebody out there. Now, as we cruise along, you'll be able to see that she's come an awful long way from arriving at the workshop and not even being able to start or stop. And she's been milling along and she's been doing so well. And I absolutely love driving her. Now, I know there'll be people out there that say to me, well, you haven't got the creature comforts of, say, your Proton, and you haven't got that heater and all the rest of it. But for me, I love that raw driving experience where you feel so connected to the car and everything that you're doing, and you just get to have a bit of a laugh as you do it, and it's fun, and everything is just so far removed from boring modern life that you can just, I don't know, switch off from all the stresses of daily life and just have so much fun in the car. And I just love doing it in this one. I mean, the Morris Minor is great, sure, I really enjoy that, but I also don't like to bring her out in the wet, so it's quite nice really to have a little classic that I can enjoy and be taking out in this weather. Now, as we come through this box, you might be wondering where reverse is. Reverse is in a really strange position, and I'm sure it's the same as some of the Triumphs, where you go right across and then you go up. It's on a bit of a weird dog leg. The first time I did it, I thought, I can't keep this car. It's just so strange. I can't believe it's there. But because I've done it a few times now, it just all feels a lot more normal. And I know a lot of you out there that watch these videos also worry about driving on drum brakes. But look, I drive on drum brakes all the time and it's absolutely fine. There are no problems whatsoever. And as you come down this hill, you'll be able to see that I can bring the car to a slow down as well. I have had to emergency brake, unfortunately. I had to do it just recently and I thought, oh, but Again, all fine, absolutely no problems whatsoever. Now the other, mumbling up all my words there because I'm so excited to take you all out for a drive finally. The other thing I should mention as well is there is no synchro mesh on first. So really, you can double clutch into first as you move, and it is a bit of an acquired talent. But I don't like to do it really because remember, it's a bit of a weak gear. So really, you only want to be using first when you come to a complete stop. But as you can see, for round town driving, this little 948 overhead valve keeps up perfectly, and there are really no problems at all, once you get used to how stiff the gearbox is, of course. Now, as I said earlier, or I certainly alluded to it, no classic car is ever done, and this one certainly isn't. There are a few bits to do. We've got wheel bearings, it's got an oil leak, which honestly, I'm probably keeping the Middle East in profit at the moment. I'm going through quite a bit of oil. So I do need to look at that. It's not really been a massive problem. It seems to be when you turn the car off, it just drops it. It doesn't seem to drop it when it's running, but look, it's fine. I'm only doing short journeys to work, so it really hasn't been that much of a trial or a tribulation for me. I've just thought, well, just top up with a bit of oil and just check it before I set off on each journey. I mean, it made it to the NEC all right, and it made it back, so it's not that bad, is it? Now, what else have I got to do? So I've got wheel bearings, I've got the oil situation. Gosh, what else is there to do? She's a little bit hesitant to start on a cold morning, but by and large, most things are pretty easy to sort, and also everything's pretty manageable at the moment. She's doing really well as a commuter. I do wonder if I could perhaps get a little bit more life out of the heater, because it is pretty chilly in here. It's not as warm as I think it could maybe be. But again, as I've spoken about in other standard videos, I don't have a reference point. I don't know what good feels like. That's the thing with the Morris Minor, is I've always had a reference point to say, that's not right, or that doesn't feel quite correct. Whereas in this, I just don't have that. Now, this is a really good time actually to show you the steering, because of course there is no power steering on this. But as we come round, you'll be able to see that as long as you've got a bit of a firm hand to it, it really isn't that bad at all. It's a nice little easy thing to drive, and something that I don't think that a young person would struggle with. And that is the thing, if you're watching this and you're thinking, well, they're cheap to insure. I think mine was about, what was it, about 200 odd quid through Adrian Flux. And I'm insured for 20,000 miles and business use, so I can get absolutely everything I need. It's an easy little thing to fix. You've got plenty of room in that engine bay, and you can get all the parts as well. So I originally thought that I could only get everything through the Owners Club, who, by the way, have been a smashing bunch of people. But I recently needed the wheel bearings, and I needed an oil filter. And I thought, oh God, because I know that obviously the Owners Club is run by volunteers. And I ended up chatting to a lovely man called Tony at the NEC Classic Motor Show. And he said, oh, I run the 8 and 10 spares shop. And I said, but, you know, I need these parts pretty quickly. What can you do? And all the rest of it. And he said to me, when you order your parts, just drop me a message. Here's my details. And I get them out next day for you. And he did it. And he's managed to get everything out next day that I've needed, which has meant that I'm not worried about running this every day. So if you are watching this and your budget for a classic is, you know, maybe around that £2,000 mark, and you want something nice, but you just can't stretch to a Morris Minor, a Mini, an MGB, the cars that people like me, when I was really young, stretched to, you could go for one of these and you can get a really nice example. There have been some that have gone through auction recently, and they have been really, really nice, and I've thought that would be such a great car for a young person, but quite often they don't consider them. So really, you've got all the ingredients there that if you do want to run one of these on the daily, it is not that difficult. I don't think it is anyway, and I'm very fussy. I like all the ingredients to be there for me. So you've got the club support, you've got somewhere you can get your spares, and you can get them pretty much next day. You can get all the spares you need. You can also tap into the tech support if you're a club member, because Steve is the technical man for these on the 8 and 10 spares. So really, everything you need is there. And also, all the 8 and 10 owners that I've met through the Owners Club have been so lovely. And any questions I've had, I've been able to get the answers like that. It has been an absolute joy. So if you are watching this video, and I know a lot of you have actually said to me that you really fancy buying one now, please just do it. They are great. Now it's time for me to cruise back to the workshop because I need to do a few little bits and pieces and investigate a couple of bits, because just like the Sistine Chapel, a classic car is never done. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I realise we've still got the engine video to go, and we've got a couple of other bits as well. But all in all, standard ownership is going so well. I'm really enjoying it. I think you'd enjoy it too if you're watching it and you're on the fence. And we have got plenty more happy videos to come, and certainly a lot more adventures to this little car. However, I am crossing my fingers that the weather is going to be a lot better. So we're going to pull up at this red light, we're going to select first gear, and we're going to say to you at home, take care and drive safely.